Explore the dark side of the galaxy, if you dare.
Hi, listeners. This is Padawan Library, the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast. I'm Levi Paratic, and with me, Tim May.
Hello, everybody.
And changing up this week, changing the intro up. No big hello, but get prepared to be blown away this week, people. Texas is being faced with 50-mile-per-hour winds, so you're going to be hearing them all this episode. It's we're going to have a windy time.
We should have watched Twister for this week.
We should have watched Twister.
Yeah.
You might hear Mel laughing in the background at my corny-ass joke.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been great. I mean, that movie is pretty crazy. Like, Phil Seymour, I'm just calling him Phil Seymour Hoffman. Phil Seymour Hoffman's wild in that movie. Yeah, I don't know. I apologize for the winds. It's kind of a nice day here today. I was surprised.
Oh, that's good.
It was kind of like shitty the last couple of days, like rainy and cold, but today it's like a nice 56 degrees, sunny, beautiful.
Ooh, that's a beautiful fall day. I assume the leaves have changed?
Yes, finally they started to change. So I have to say, movies must stop coming out. I am overwhelmed this weekend because the new Wes Anderson I thought was opening last week.
Mm-hmm. It's opening this weekend.
But it's opening this week in wide release, so we're getting that. The new Edgar Wright movie's out this week. And I wasn't ready for Dune last week because I was reading the book, finished the book, so I'd like to see that too.
In all fairness, you only needed to read half the book.
Yeah. I wanted the full context and all that.
You got till 2023 before you had to read the whole book.
Everybody whining about that needs to relax. I knew that, like, that's how it was announced.
Yeah,
like,
I know. I'm not complaining about it.
It's so weird that people are so, like, it's one thing, like, I get it if you're like, just like, I walked into this movie just off the street, but like, a lot of these, like, plugged in, like, online, extremely online movie fucks that I talk to, or I don't talk to them, I observe, like, that are whining about it. I'm just like, the first time I heard about this movie happening, I heard it was a two-parter.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, it's the It model, where they're not going to greenlight both up front, but they're going to try as hard as they can to make sure the first one does well.
Well, apparently Dennis wants a third one, too.
Denis.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I assume...
I think...
I assume the second one will finish book one.
Finish the first book, yeah.
So if they don't make any more, it's fine. Nobody cares about the sequels that much.
I will say this, it does a whole lot better world building than the David Lynch one does. Because I'm watching it, I'm like, boy, I understand this way more than I did watching the Lynch one. And then, like, I just went back and I watched the first hour of the Lynch one today, and I was just like, wow, the new one is much better than this one.
Well, that's fine.
No shots at Lynch. There's a lot of great things in it.
You know, I was talking to a friend of the show who won't ever be on the show, and he was... not the person I'm normally referring to when I say that.
It's not Dan.
A friend of Dan's.
Joel.
Joel. I love that we're like talking around these people that no one knows who they are. Like they're celebrities or something. I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that he had watched the original. He kept calling it the original. And I'm just like, that's kind of like calling the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings the original. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. It is the first movie version. I understand on a basic level, but it's like, the book is still more famous than any of the movies. like it's one of those books. It'd be like calling, like, the Baz Luhrmann Great Gatsby a remake. It's like, not real. Like, yeah, there's been a Great Gatsby movie before, but, like, it's The Great Gatsby's a book, and when people hear the title The Great Gatsby, they think book. They don't think either movie, frankly. So it's a weird, I don't know, whatever. It's pedantic nonsense from me, but so I wasn't able to finish that Nightmare on Elm Street puzzle because it was too dang hard. I got all the, like, basics done. Like, I got Freddy's face, and I got the claw, I got the hand, the glove, and I got like some corners that there were, but no, but it was just too many black spaces that were just impossible. And so I went and I found a much easier Titanic movie poster puzzle.
Ooh, wow, the Blockbuster trademarked.
I hate that they're branded with Blockbuster, but these are nice. I also got Back to the Future 2. I haven't started that one yet.
Oh, nice.
But I wish it was the, like, actual one sheet for Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
Not whatever this weird key art
I feel like that was, like, DVD art.
Yeah, like, like, what the hell? Like, yeah, give me the actual... you'll have to find a picture of this online and post it so people know what we're talking about.
No, exactly. It's just got the DeLorean and a big Roman numeral on it. Like,
yeah, like, it should be the actual. It's weird that they had Back to the Future 2, but not Back to the Future. That was also strange, I thought. And I like Back to the Future 2. I'm not one of these freaks that thinks it's better than the first one. Those, including a friend of the show who'll never be on the show. Yeah.
But I agree. There's too many movies coming out. I'm
excited, but yeah,
I'm excited too. I'm gonna go see Soho this tomorrow, and then I'm gonna go see French Dispatch on Saturday.
I'm figuring out my schedule for the weekend, so hopefully I can see both of them. Dune might have to wait another week because I know my brother wanted to reread the book.
It'll be there. So, don't worry.
I know it's a hit. It's a hit.
It's a big time hit. Yeah. People really like it.
Yeah, I'm very happy. What a weird world that book is. Fucking crazy. So it's pretty insane. I love it, by the way. So speaking of Dune. Speaking of David Lynch's Dune, one of the original directors on Lynch's Dune was Sir Ridley Scott. Mm-hmm. And this week, instead of Dune, he chose to make the film we're discussing this week, Legend, which is perhaps an equally, like, troubled production in some ways.
I did some light reading on this.
Oh, I have lots of info.
And I read that this was like a passion project of his. Like right from the beginning of his career, he wanted to make a movie about legends.
Right after the Duelists, his first film.
And then he takes Alien, then he takes Blade Runner, and then he's got the time, I can make this movie finally. And then, he's like, well, I got so many ideas, I can't adapt anything. I need to have an original script for this.
He hires a fantasy writer, like a novelist, and they bang out a script. He hires Rob Bottin, the legendary makeup guy behind The Thing. Mm-hmm. Also worked with Rick Baker before that.
And this is right after The Thing, too.
This is his follow-up to The Thing, and then later on he goes to do Total Recall and a couple other movies, big movies. A legendary makeup guy, like one of the all-timers. And obviously The Thing is like maybe the best makeup effects movie of all time. So, but he, and then, goes through some casting, winds up with Tom Cruise. This is Cruise right before he becomes the main guy. Like, this is the year before Top Gun. So, like, he's like a up-and-coming young actor who's not really, like, anywhere near, like, an A-list level. Like, he's like a young teen star, basically.
He feels so young in this movie.
I know, he's insanely young in this movie. And then also cast Mia Sara, who I believe this is her first movie. She's more famous. Yeah, more famous
by Ridley.
More famous for she plays Sloane in Ferris Bueller's Day Off the next year, and doesn't have a huge career otherwise, unfortunately. But
and then there's one other big star in this movie,
of course.
And from what I read, he was thinking of casting Richard O'Brien, the creator of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, as like the swamp monster. So he was watching Rocky Horror Picture Show, saw Tim Curry, and was like, "This is my guy."
So
this is the devil.
Tim Curry plays Darkness, aka the devil, but Darkness is his name in this film. And like this movie went through a lot. There was a great thing where my favorite part, this is all information from the Wikipedia page, by the way, that I think we both read.
Yes, and we did.
There was a very funny bit where it was they almost cast Mickey Rooney, but he didn't make Tom Cruise look tall enough. Which is great, because Cruise is like a legendary short guy.
He sure is.
Yeah, this is very funny. And then, so this movie, they shot it on the Bond stage. They got this is my thing about this movie. I've always seen, and there's two cuts of this movie. Which one did you watch?
I watched the theatrical cut.
Okay, that's also what I watched. I wound up watching that. I have the Blu-ray that has both of them, but I decided to watch the theatrical cut, which is the American theatrical cut, I should say, with the Tangerine Dream score. It's also only 89 minutes long. I believe the director's cut is almost 2 hours and has, of course, a score by Jerry Goldsmith. So I actually quite enjoy both scores. I don't have a particular preference, although I do think for the 89-minute version of Legend, which is essentially a fever dream, with almost no particular narrative cohesion, the Tangerine Dream score is perfect for that.
It's very good for that.
I will say, I wish movies still looked like this. This is my main. Like, I wish there were still fantasy movies that came out and looked anything like this. This might be the best looking fantasy movie of all time. High fantasy, we're talking about movie of all time, is probably the first Lord of the Rings, I would say, all told. Because that's, it's right before digital color correction, looks gorgeous, rich film look, but also like incredible incorporation of CG and miniatures and everything. Every aspect of special effects filmmaking, you're just like, it's incredible to watch, right? But, and that kind of represents like the apex of it in some ways. But this is kind of like, there's an uncited, I believe, thing on the Wikipedia page that this film killed fantasy movies, which doesn't really make sense because I think the following year is Labyrinth and then Willow's like a year after that. So it's like,
that makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I don't really buy that. But I will say, all of those movies were flops, basically, or disappointments at least. And so there really wasn't a lot of like high budget fantasy in between, say, Willow and Lord of the Rings, really. In the 90s, there's fantasy movies you can find, but they're all kind of low rent, The highest rent thing you're getting is like Dragon Slayer, Stinky Poo Poo.
I mean, and this thing too is it's the scale of the sets and the design of the sets. Like it really, it's a level of quality that made me think of like Dagobah, and Empire Strikes Back, because that I feel like is kind of the birth of this visual style of this high fantasy.
Absolutely.
But the whole movie is this, like this is the whole film is on this level.
Have you seen that short film that premiered before Empire Strikes Back in England?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's directed by the guy that would eventually direct Battlefield Earth, unfortunately for him. But it's not very good, but it is this incredible art direction, and it's kind of a similar vibe. This movie, the movie that this reminds me of the most is probably Excalibur. I don't think it's as good as that movie. I don't know if you've seen Excalibur.
No, I haven't. It reminded me of the animated movie, The Last Unicorn.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's very similar, which is a great book, by the way, The Last Unicorn.
Which has a great song. The last unicorn, I'm alive. I can't remember. There's some band that does that. I think it's like America. Yeah, it's America. Who does the score for The Last Unicorn?
Hilarious, America.
Also, Christopher Lee is in that movie as well.
I know he is. I mean, It's a fun movie. I mean, but yeah,
it's an okay movie.
Yeah, the book is a masterpiece. So it's like one of those things where I'm like, it's fun, but only because like I know the material. So it's like, yeah. Anyway, Legend though. Here's the thing. I think Legend is a delight. And I think it's simultaneous. Well, not simultaneously. I think it is by dorks, specifically fantasy dorks. I feel like this movie is underrated. I don't think the movie's really super underrated in a general sense. Although I feel like people were too harsh on it at the time. Now it's kind of regained a little bit of respect. But like the fantasy dork community, like the Dungeons and Dragons freaks and the all these people should watch Legend. They would fuck with it so hard. Like, I don't really get why, like, this is, okay, I'm going to pull out one of my big hobby horses, and, this is not a popular opinion from me. All right. So, The Dark Crystal is a masterpiece and is infinitely superior to Labyrinth, which is so much more popular only because David Bowie's in it, but is like a way worse movie in all ways. There you go. Okay. Nobody agrees, and that's fine. But they're wrong, and I'm right. So there we go.
There we go. I'm not going to let Mel hear that opinion, so.
Okay, well, whatever. Like, I like Labyrinth, but, like, it's one of these things where it's like I
haven't seen Dark Crystal. I can't say anything.
Dark Crystal is the best movie. Okay, Dark Crystal is so much more of a work of vision than Labyrinth. Labyrinth is fun, but like Dark Crystal is like, it's just fully formed. Everything about it is incredible. And like, I will say Labyrinth is like one of these things where I'm like, I should like this more than I do, given the pedigree. Think about this. This is Jim Henson.
Mm-hmm.
This is George Lucas.
Executive producer.
Very involved, though. This is David Bowie. This is Terry Jones from Monty Python. A lot of people. Don't
forget about Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the creative people. She was like, 15? Like, she she wasn't influencing the direction of the movie. I love Jennifer Connelly, though. I mean, but it's like, in general, I just find it's always been a slight disappointment to me. And I still think it's a very fun movie, good movie, but Dark Crystal is just like, that's that shit. That's special shit from Jim and Frank. That's all I'm saying. And people should respect it more. And not just because there's some Netflix TV show that doesn't even involve the living Frank Oz. Like, why am I going to watch that? Okay, whatever.
Well, Frank Oz is continually disrespected for no good reason.
Give him his Muppet movie. What the fuck?
I agree. Bringing it back to Legend.
I'm all over the place.
My thought on Legend is that if a kid had this video cassette as a kid, like I could see children who had this tape being obsessed with this movie, like kids really enjoying this movie.
I didn't see it till probably I was in middle school or high school when I was running through some of the Ridleys, and at the time I honestly, like, I get where some people are coming from, that the movie has a pretty thin story. And that it's like, if you break it down, it's fairly basic. But I also think, like, the vibe of it is incredible. Like, the tone is really interesting. There's like, the look is great. The performances are very broad, but not like, I mean, Curry's great. Tim Curry's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I love Cruise. I'm a Cruise fan.
I can't remember. There's a moment where Crowe screams something, and I can't remember what he screams, but it made me laugh so hard watching him scream this.
It is a little hard to buy Crowe as, like...
The purist?
Not that. That's whatever. That's his screen persona. That, like, whatever, you gotta deal with that. But, that's fine. The problem, the thing that's hard to buy Crowe, and this is also, he's so young at this point.
The unibrow?
No. Let me finish. It's hard to buy Crowe as, like, a man of the woods. Like, some sort of, Justin Timberlake's Man of the Woods. So, like, that's all. Like, it's just, like, as a rugged, like, especially at this point, although apparently he did his own diving in shark-infested waters.
Instead of alligator-infested waters.
Oh, I'm sorry, alligator-infested waters. Which is so funny. Like, he's always been a maniac.
He always has. I told Mel that fact, and she was like, "Oh, I guarantee he'd still do it today." But he would, like they said, the alligators were like 25 feet away. I bet
he's
now
like, get them closer.
They need to be 10 feet away.
I need to feel like I'm going to die for my sins. He's a maniac.
I would be
can't wait for Mission 7.
Yep, I would be very interested to see how the quote unquote director's cut of this movie plays.
It is,
from what I read, it's like the second cut of the movie. So they had a 120-minute version, and then they
113 minutes.
Yeah, 113. So it's like really the second cut of the movie. Because a lot of like the peripheral characters, I didn't feel like I got like invested in any of the little characters.
The little
who
kid
end up
character,
helping out.
The performance of that little kid who has like the adult voice is like a very good performance.
It is a really good child performance.
It's an interesting, like, obviously it's an adult dubbing over them, which is an interesting, weird vibe. But also like the physicality of that performance is really strong and really and very compelling and plays really well against Crowe.
I think it's mostly the little, I don't want to call them trolls, but maybe that's what they were.
Yeah.
But like the kind of the more side characters that I think were supposed to be more kind of slapsticky, but this movie is kind of humorless. Like there's not a whole lot of humor going on in it.
I love the, they look great. Like the makeup on them is amazing. Boutine just killing it. I'm kind of surprising he never did like another big fantasy movie. I guess he worked on Game of Thrones or something, so maybe...
But his work on Curry in this movie is incredible.
Yeah, and that's, like, the whole thing. You see Curry, like rip some of his skin off, taking off the makeup one day.
Yeah, I did see that, yeah.
Crazy. Let's talk about Tim Curry a little bit, because he's a guy that, like, is one of these guys that I'm like, I know he's a very good actor, but he's been in almost no truly great movies. He's one of these people.
I agree, because he's got the voice, he's an
amazing actor. I think that in some, I'm sure he's like a big stage guy in England, probably, but
yes. Very theatrical. Well, his big breakout role is a Rocky Horror Picture Show, but then he's got this role. He's got It, which is another heavy makeup performance.
Not a fan
from there, all I can recall from there is another high fantasy movie, Muppet Treasure Island.
Yeah, he's good in that. I would call that a high fantasy movie.
Home Alone 2 and Lost in New York. If you didn't know the subtitle,
co-starred with our former president.
Our former president, and Rob Schneider is also he's the bellhop in that.
That's peas in a pod right there.
It sure is. And then the only other thing I recall him from is the Wild Thornberrys. He was the voice of the dad in Wild Thornberrys.
Nigel, I believe. Somehow I know that.
Thornberry.
That's when I quit watching Nickelodeon. Was when that.
Yeah,
show,
I never cared for that show at all.
When Nickelodeon, there was a big Snick was premiering a bunch of new shows. This is like 98 or something. And I remember, I think it was Wild Thornberrys, Cousin Skeeter, maybe The Adventures of Alan Strange. Maybe that.
That's a name I haven't heard for a long time.
When that happened, I watched the premieres of those shows and I was like, I'm a grown-up now. Give me Chungking Express.
Oh my God! I can hear Franco cackling in San Francisco right now.
Indeed, this movie, I will say, like, if you liked like just audio visual experiences, watch Legend. Like, Legend is like really fucking cool. And I also think if you're really into fantasy, like in a real way, not like I like Lord of the Rings, the movies, and Harry Potter or whatever, but like I actually like am into like weird 60s, 70s, like goopy fantasy. That's a weird way to describe it, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think you'll get into this movie. This movie's pretty fun on that level. Like, it has like, and you know, I think Mia Sara is actually pretty good in it. Like, that's a pretty good like princess performance.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think there's two great horse performances in this movie. The horses played unicorns. And, I mean, not sure how they got the horns on them, but they stayed on there pretty well from the looks of it. And the horses, they're like galloping and leaping at each other. It's a lot of good stuff going on there.
That whole sequence where she touches the unicorn at the beginning, that whole sequence is so incredible. Like, it is just like, it's just, it's one of these things I love, like, truly just visceral, emotional cinema. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is all about the cutting and the sound, and like, the storytelling works, it all functions, but it's very much like especially I haven't seen the director's cut in over a decade, so I couldn't like do a full breakdown outside of the scores. Although I'm sure like the story is more fleshed out and it's like a little more on track as a story, but like it just feels like it's like a 90-minute Tangerine Dream music video with like a really cool story, like, and I fucking love it.
Big budget. It's good.
A huge budget.
Fun.
I mean,
massive budget.
I mean, this is clearly like.
What was the budget of this movie?
Had to have been like probably at the time like 30 to 40, so pretty high.
I'm looking it up now.
Here's the thing, Ridley. This is only his fourth feature after The Duelist, Alien, and Blade Runner. And The Duelist is pretty underseen, but that's a really good movie.
That's one I need to see. That one. I need to see a lot, actually.
Alien and Blade Runner are like twin masterpieces. They hang over his whole career. And this is undeniably kind of like, I do think because of the failure of this movie, he kind of ran away from being like king genre motherfucker for a long time. He came back to it eventually, made a few genre movies much later in his career. I mean, I'm talking about like sci-fi fantasy genre, or like obviously like crime movies or genre movies, but like
$25 million budget,
which at that time is fairly high, although not crazy. Like, I don't know what that would be. I would guess that's like an $80 to $90 million budget movie now, probably. But regardless, I it's a step down from those, and like I think it bears the brunt of a lot of the kind of disappointment a lot of people feel about Ridley's career after the beginning of it, which I think is unfair. Like, and I used to feel this way, but I think it's pretty unfair. If you look at his career, he's made so many good movies. Like, there's a lot of just really strong stuff. Like, I appreciate it.
We talked about, said we were going to go into this last week, his latest movie, The Last Duel. We talked about it off air. We don't need to go into it because I don't want to spoil the movie. People should just go see this movie.
They should go see The Last Duel. I mean, if it's still playing near them, it bombed, unfortunately.
Go see it now. If you are listening to this and if you got an hour, well, I mean, you obviously have an hour to kill. Well, if you have another hour to kill after that.
Plus another half hour.
Half an hour.
It's a 2.5 hour movie.
Just turn this off. Go see The Last Duel. So
very good movie. And I fear it's going to just kind of get slipped through the cracks because it didn't do very well. And he has another movie coming out in a month, so it's like
right.
But
and he's in his mid-80s. He's like,
and he's about to go shoot a Napoleon movie.
Right? It's just he just is
he
one after another.
Cranks them out.
And you know what? He's also the king of director's cuts, because this movie has a director's cut, Alien has a director's cut, Blade Runner has multiple cuts, and a movie you lent me ages ago that I watched today.
What?
The director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven.
Okay, what did you think? We should have just talked about Kingdom of Heaven.
I agree, because it's a better movie.
Okay, yeah. What'd you think?
Masterpiece.
Yeah,
it's incredible. It's really fucking good. The Norton performance, the Edward Norton performance as the King of Jerusalem, amazing, because I had no idea who that actor was under the mask. I'm like, who is this? The voice sounds so familiar. Bloom is amazing too. Bloom, who's hot off the heels of like Pirates of the Caribbean, who is like clearly going to shoot sequels after this. He still looks like that character. He's playing a blacksmith.
You know what's crazy is he came right off the set of Kingdom of Heaven, right onto the set of Cameron Crowe's Elizabethtown. So no wonder his performance in that movie is insanely bad. Like,
he spent it all on this movie. And Liam Neeson.
He's incredible.
Like when Liam Neeson reveals he's Orlando Bloom's dad, it's just like, this is perfect casting. These two, I buy Orlando Bloom as Liam Neeson's son so much, and just the movie is a sprawling epic that I feel like could only be made in 2005, because we got the advent, CGI is getting big again. Yeah. We got episode 3 comes out that year. I mean, and this is like a Kagamusha size level epic that he makes here.
I think Ridley gets a real bad rap for that kind of strain of his filmmaking, which is I think it's partly because very few of the people that complain about his big, large-scale kind of period epics have seen Kingdom of Heaven, or especially have seen the Kingdom of Heaven director's cut, which, you should never even watch the theatrical cut. It's not worth it at all. But
it's like almost a 50-minute difference in terms of
it's
runtime.
so much shorter. I saw that movie in the theater and thought it was not that good. And then when the director's cut came out on DVD a couple years later, I was like, "Oh, this is incredible!" It is the biggest jump in quality. I can't even really tell you what was not in it. It's been so long. I only saw the theatritrical cut the one time.
It's such a runtime difference, but I only have seen the director's cut, and it was very, very good. Yeah, just incredible.
A great movie. I'm glad you watched it. That's such a nice surprise. Thank you.
You'll get it back soon, I promise.
Well, whenever. Ridley, it's my third favorite Ridley Scott movie, Kingdom of Heaven, after the obvious first two.
Blade Runner and Alien.
Well, Alien, then Blade Runner. That's always going to be. And by
so then what's fourth? What do you do fourth then?
Thelma and Louise, maybe.
Okay, all right. Yeah. See, this guy has had so much. He has so much range. Yeah, it's incredible his range of what he can pull off.
It's crazy. I mean, you look at because he works in he has that mode, the kind of big grand scale epic mode. He has the grimy, interesting genre movie mode, especially if you look at. Well, that's kind of a mixture of the two, but then you also get him in his poor man's Michael Mann phase, or as I would call him, Michael Boy phase, which is Body of Lies and those kinds of movies. Black Rain, Someone to Watch Over Me. Those are his Michael Boy films, and then.
But then he's got Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, The Martian, these.
Black Hawk Down is one of those movies that is undeniable in a lot of ways, but is also indefensible in many ways. On a just a human level, I would say, but it is incredibly well made. I the only movie of his that I've seen that I think is just horrible. Is Hannibal.
What? Hannibal.
Hannibal, but a lot of that's the source material is so bad. But I haven't. The one that is like famously people don't like that I haven't seen is A Good Year, which is the Russell Crowe and Marion Cotillard in Wine Country movie.
That sounds delightful to me.
I mean, I love all the people involved. And then you know what's a good one that you know it wasn't quite the overwhelming masterpiece that I think people wanted it to be at the time, but it is really good and holds up on like after some time, is American Gangster.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was really strong. Denzel incredible in that. Russell Crowe good.
I was looking through his filmography, and I stumbled upon his one movie that it's like I know I saw, and it's like completely blank from my mind until I saw I saw the poster. Is whenever it came back to me, The Counselor.
That's a crazy fucking movie. Have you seen that?
I have seen it, and I know for years there's a still of Javier Bardem looking crazy, and it was my banner on Facebook for years. Like it was there for a while, and like I know I saw it, and I remember Cameron Diaz in it, and
she fucks a car. She fucks a car. Everybody's talking about this Cannes Film Festival movie. And they're like, oh, this woman fucks a car. And you're like, you know who got there first was Ridley and Cameron. They fucked that car first.
I totally forgot about that.
I
need to rewatch this movie
yet.
now.
I hope it's good. But anyway, that's a crazy fucking movie. I love the Alien prequels. Like, you know, and The Martian's a great entertainment. Like, he just makes good movies. Like, I'm not saying he's never made a weak movie, but, like, this is a guy that you want these kinds of people making movies on this scale. Like, he just knows what to do. I can't wait for The Gooch, House of the Gooch.
I know. And Jeremy Irons, who was incredible in Kingdom of Heaven, he
so good.
And he loves working with people he's worked with before. So
he has lots of frequent collaborators.
Well, now he's a driver. He's just like, oh, this guy was great in Last Duel.
I'm glad he's reuniting with Joaquin for this Napoleon movie. They haven't worked together since Gladiator, so that's exciting. I feel like because of ultimately where Joaquin's career went, like some of those early performances get really underrated, like specifically Gladiator and the Shyamalan movies, like Signs in the Village. I think he's so good in those three movies, and like I feel like they're not talked about with his other great performances, like The Master or whatever.
Right.
You know? Like,
even then, I feel like The Master. Well, he's had such a revival with the Joker, and I feel like there's
The Master's the beginning of the revival.
There's a whole body of work where just like people like act like, oh, it's Joaquin, we love Joaquin.
Well, yeah, but
like,
Joaquin,
you've seen The Master.
Well, The Master was the beginning of the revival after the whole fake documentary thing.
I'm not here, Casey Affleck.
All that nonsense. So like The Master was the beginning of that. And then he does he rips off like The Master, Her, The Immigrant, like a bunch of cool stuff right in a row. You know, and I love him in the James Gray movies. We don't need to get into James Gray. I love James Gray. Check out the work of James Gray. He's a legend. I don't know why.
People need to know.
They should know. He's fucking the best. I got like his whole complete collection on Blu-ray over here somewhere. I got all of his films on Blu-ray, other than Little Odessa. Get that shit on Blu-ray, I say. I have that on DVD. All right. So, wow, that, legend, fun movie. But
Legend, fun movie.
Kingdom of Heaven. Masterpiece.
Director's cut. Masterpiece.
And then, check out The Last Duel. Also a very good movie.
Yeah, go see that immediately. And go see House of Gucci. New trailer out today.
Yeah, man.
Crazy. Next month.
Many movies.
I feel like it's slowed down at this point. Because now, Soho...
French
Dispatch, Dune are out. I can't think of anything that's like from now until House of Gucci, unless I'm missing something.
I feel like you are missing something. I don't have it all in front of me right now. I mean, next weekend I think is only Eternals as usual with those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think
so boring.
I mean, I don't know. I think it looks interesting for that kind of movie, but We'll see. I don't think they'll actually let it be interesting. My biggest problem with that trailer is when it becomes too Marvel-y, like with the jokes. Like, when it's serious, I'm like, this looks like the kind of serious, po-faced blockbuster that I like. And then, like, they have, like, IKEA jokes. I'm like, this is taking me out of it. Taking me out of the vibe that I want.
Oh, I'm wrong. A big one's coming out, Tim. Ghostbusters Afterlife is coming out.
I'm not prepared for that. Oh, no.
The biggest thing that takes me out of that trailer is like when you see
jokes.
a Walmart. There's no jokes and there's a Walmart.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's like, ew, this is disgusting. Like, I hate Walmart. I hate going to Walmart. I have to go to Walmart like once a week, and I hate it every time. And the fact that, like, I'm not going to go to a movie that goes to a Walmart. That seems so gross. Okay, I saw the trailer.
Also, how like asleep does Aykroyd sound at the end of that trailer?
Okay,
like...
that's what I'm getting to. I was at the theater, and it was like a packed. This is for Venom. I saw that trailer, and it was like a packed theater. And after he goes, "We're closed," I hear somebody behind me go, "What?" Like, they were so like astounded by the fact that Aykroyd was in it, or they were just confused. I don't know. They could have just been outright.
There was the first time I saw that trailer, somebody was just like, Bill Murray? Like, that's Aykroyd. I mean, I know Bill Murray's also in the movie, but it's like, I don't know. What a...
Oh, Clifford the Big Red Dog. I know you're excited for Clifford the Big Red Dog.
No, not at all. Anything else? Like, I feel like there are a couple, like, things that maybe we're forgetting about.
There's a lot of, like, limited stuff that I'm not, like, I've not heard of, but in terms of like the big stuff, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City comes out the same day.
What
as
are
House
they
of
doing?
Gucci.
Why are they like bunching everything up and then having like weeks where nothing of note is out? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's because they're giving the Marvel birth or whatever, which is insane. It's like it's so annoying. Like, whatever. Anyway,
speaking of having birth in between movies.
Okay.
Unrelated.
Okay.
You heard that Nolan thing that
and 3 weeks around each.
3 weeks around each.
That's a fucking legendary deal. I love it. What a king. Nolan just like sunning people constantly, just sunning them. I was listening to an interview with Denis Villeneuve about Dune, conducted by Christopher Nolan. And Nolan...
Real quick, Licorice Pizza comes out 2 days after House of Gucci, so it's like that end of November is... Like
the Thanksgiving weekend is crazy. Anyway, but I was listening to this interview with Denis Villeneuve that Chris Nolan did for the DGA, and Villeneuve was talking about setting up, like, the deal for the movie, and he was saying, like, the reason they didn't, like, greenlight 2 up front is because Blade Runner didn't do that well. Mm-hmm. And Nolan was just like, I think that they're engaging in some funny accounting there. I think clearly Blade Runner has been a huge success. He's just like, I think the studio is lying. Like, it basically said that. I was like, this dude is just scorched earth on Warner Brothers. Because it's like, Blade Runner absolutely didn't do well. That's just not true. I mean, maybe, I'm sure at this point, like, it's a well-liked enough movie that I'm sure it's starting to make money now, but, like, it's just very funny that, like, I don't know, I just thought that was so funny. That he was...
Nolan. Well, Nolan must be a fan, because I saw Nolan praised Dune. Nolan was a fan of Dune.
Yeah. It was, that whole interview was pretty good, actually. Like, got me pretty pumped to see it. So, you saw it, I assume? It sounds like?
No, I only read little bits, so.
I thought you saw Dune.
Oh, yeah, I saw Dune.
You saw it theatrically, I assume?
Yeah, I saw it theatrically.
Like a good person? Okay, good.
Of course.
I share my HBO and Go, Max, my HBO Max account. Uh-huh. I share it with some people, and we have a group text about Star Trek, and somebody came in and was talking about how they watched Dune, and they watched it on HBO Max, and they were telling the other people to watch it on HBO Max. I was like, you're using my account. You're not allowed to watch it on there. You must go see it in the theater.
I mean, this movie was a visual delight. This movie was very fun to see on a big screen. So.
I mean, listen, there are mitigating circumstances. People that are a friend of the show, Franco, is waiting for his kid to be able to get vaccinated. I get that for those people. But for this guy who lives by himself, is an adult who has been vaccinated, go to the fucking theater. That's what I say to that guy.
Is this someone I know?
You kind of know him. Yeah, it's not
Okay, this is your other circle of friends.
You've met him, I think. But yeah, okay. not worth it right now. Ugh, made me so mad. I was like, if it weren't my account, I wouldn't have gotten so mad. But I'm like, you're using my account. You're giving Warner Brothers data from my email address that I like seeing movies day and date. I do not, sir. All right.
That's the beauty. You go to a movie theater, you're not sharing your personal data with the studios.
Sure,
it's
not even I don't mean to get into some big data conversation, but in general, I just mean I don't want to vote for that method of releasing movies. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm really saying. But anyway, when we come back, we'll talk about a book that I don't think we even mentioned what book we're talking about. But it's in the title of the goddamn episode, so you guys know. It's Dark Legends by George Mann, illustrations by, what's his face? Griffin. Grant Griffin. And, we're going to talk about it when we get back, so stay tuned. All right,
stay tuned.
Welcome back to Padawan Library. I'm Tim May, here as always with Levi Peretic.
Hello.
And this week, we're discussing Dark Legends, the new short story collection by George Mann, who we covered his book Myths and Fables basically 2 years ago, I think, at this point.
Yep, it was a big tie-in with Galaxy's Edge opening.
So this is a book that came out last year, and we decided this will be our spooky, Chewbacca. We didn't really talk about it last week, but The Mighty Chewbacca in the Forest of Fear, we thought was going to be a spookier book, but it's not really it doesn't really fit the vibe.
It wasn't fit.
More of a straightforward. This, I was expecting less so. I thought it was just going to be Sith short stories, and that's part of it. But these are actual horror stories set in the Star Wars universe. So,
and I'll say right off the top, I like this better than Myths and Fables.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I think it's pretty consistently strong. There are a few high points for me, but
I agree.
I had a great time. I read it at work, and it was Grant. First of all, let's give some props to Grant Griffin.
His artwork is incredible.
He's so good. We're gonna touch on this team again at the end of the year for their Life Day treasury that they put out just very recently.
Because we need a Christmas episode. We have never done a Christmas episode, so that'll be it.
We want to get that in.
Now, I love Grant Griffin's artwork in these stories, but I have one critique about the placement of the artwork. I think the artwork should be at the end of the story, because in the very first story here, the orphanage, and then the one, let me see what the title was.
The predecessor?
The predecessor.
Both of those give away kind of the game of what the story
I agree,
is.
Because the orphanage it basically gives away that it's the Inquisitor who is the monster of the story, and the predecessor basically right off the bat gives it away that Darth Vader choked the previous captain. I feel like if you didn't have those at the beginning of the story, there'd be a little bit more mystery there, especially in the predecessor, which I thought was good, but going into it right off the bat knowing Darth Vader choked the previous captain out is, you kind of know what's going on the whole time. The story. Although
that was a very good story. So this story, the predecessor, is about an Imperial officer who inexplicably gets promoted to a higher position, and he winds up then starts seeing things, seeing an officer who he believes to be dead. And he's going crazy, and then Vader shows up kills him. So essentially this officer was the previous person that held this position that was murdered by Vader, choked by Vader, and now he's haunting this guy, warning him that he's going to see the same fate, basically. Which is a very fun story.
It has like a Poe element to it, where like the guy's in his bed and he sees the silhouette of a man at the foot of his bed, and he hears choking and gurgling, and like every night he goes to sleep and he hears the same choking, like the whole time. So that's a fun story. That's basically the whole gist of that story. I thought that one was pretty good. Do we want to just go into what we thought were the high ones, and then
we can go through. Let's go through them, I guess.
Okay.
I just read it this morning, so if we just kind of go through each one, I think.
Okay. So the orphanage is basically about a little girl who it's hinted that she's force sensitive. She's living in this orphanage. I can't remember the planet. And there's a specter who comes.
Gaten.
There's a lot of planets I don't know in this book, and it probably really doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
But basically,
her name is Elish, by the way.
Elish. Billy Elish.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like a freak. God.
And
there's a song for No Time to Die. Pretty good, by the way.
Pretty good, I agree. It's a shame that it got released like 2 years before the movie came out.
I never heard it. I very assiduously avoided it because I was like, I like to hear these Bond songs in context. So I was like, I need to. Now, like, Billie Eilish is one of these people. I'm like, I appreciate it. That I heard a few songs, clearly very talented, but like I never got into it. So it's not like I was like, I can't wait to listen to the new Billie Eilish single. So it was fine. I was able to sit on it for a year and a half. No problem. Anyway, this girl though, this Elish, she's at this orphanage. And it's like kind of like when we read Servants of the Empire. It's like kind of like because it's set in a similar period. It's post Clone Wars, and it's so it like this orphanage has had these other people that are maybe force sensitive. She has no context for that, so she doesn't really understand it. But they've disappeared and things like that, and have been taken.
Disappear in the middle of the night through an open window. And then the people at the orphanage, they just like, well, maybe they ran away, and they go looking, they find nothing, until one day, Eilish, she meets a Jedi, and I gotta figure out whose the Jedi's name was.
I think it's Vina something.
Okay, I think it's
Kira Ventala.
Kira Ventala, and she hears the story, and she hangs out at the orphanage while the children sleep until one night the Spectre comes back to take our main character, Eilish, and starts to run off with her. There's a lightsaber duel. She's saved, and the Spectre runs off into the night. Now, from the illustration at the beginning of this story, you know that the Spectre is the Inquisitor from Rebels. He's not said out. They don't say his name outright, but from the illustration, this is like definitely that Inquisitor from the first season. The one who had some choice meetings with our boy
from Servants of the Empire.
Yeah, Leo. Leo was his name? No, his dad was Leo.
It's not Leo. I can't remember. Did you say that Tarantino's son is named Leo? By the way, do you think he's named after DiCaprio?
How old is this guy? I don't know how old his son is.
Like 2 years, maybe 2 years. Like very
okay. Young. There's a very good chance he's Leonardo.
I just thought that was funny. Anyway,
Leo Tarantino.
A very funny name.
So anyway, most of that story is just, children are being taken. So that's the orphanage.
That one's not bad. Yeah, the next one is
fine start to the book. Buyer Beware.
Buyer Beware. You take this one.
All right. So Buyer Beware. This is from the symbol on the title page. You know that this has something to do with Galaxy's Edge because you have the Spire symbol. There is.
May the spires be with you. Is that
bright suns. May the spires be with you.
Is it May the spires be with you?
No, it's May the spires keep you.
Oh,
that's it. All right, so we have an ambassador named Solkin.
Oh, yeah, this one. Okay.
He is a collector of ancient artifacts, and he goes to Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities, located at the on Batu at Black Spire Outpost.
Is that a real place?
That is a real place. Yep. And Doc Ondar here, who's pictured in the image, he's actually an animatronic who hangs out in the store. And,
I bet he's a lot of fun, man.
I bet he is a lot of fun. And also, I remember that there early on they said you were going to be able to negotiate with Doc Ondar and for prices. I don't know how that works out, or if they continue to do that, or if that went away, or if it ever worked. Being able to negotiate with a Disney price seems unfathomable.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably you negotiate, but really, like, there's 3 prices and it's for 3 separate items.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that are, like, similar, like, one smaller one bigger one.
I know, too, that he doesn't speak Basic or English. He speaks, an Ithorian, I think is how you pronounce his species. And that there is, like, a cast member who, like, is interpreting for him. So, yeah, the bartering system on Galaxy's Edge is left to be explained by another person than us. So anyway, Solkin, he buys this mask, and Doc Ondar says to him, be careful, because this mask could be cursed. So anyway, Solkin, he's hanging out with the mask, and he puts the mask on, and when he puts the mask on, he's seeing through another person's eyes. He's seeing another person's life, and this person is very powerful. And the first thing this person does is, hang on, I can't even remember the order of this. I know at one part he kills a guy. He blackmails a person in the first vision. And then so Solkin is just like, oh, I loved how he blackmailed that guy. I got this meeting coming up with this high official. I'm going to blackmail him. So he does. And he's like, boy, that worked out great. I love that. Puts the mask on again, sees a murder happen. The previous owner of the mask murdered a person in order to gain more power. Solkin's like, ooh, I love this idea. So he poisons a guy. I'm not sure how he gets away with this, that he's able to poison this guy and nobody like worries that this guy is gone, or what he does with the body. They don't explain that. So then he's like, oh, I'm so powerful now. Puts the mask on again. Then he sees the previous owner was murdered by his own assistant. So then Solkin is just like, oh no, it might happen to me. And sure enough, it happens to him before he even has time to anticipate it. So that is buyer beware. That is that is pretty much the whole story.
And then there's the predecessor, which we talked about. And yes, then that's Blood Moon, which you can guess is basically about a werewolf planet. Where a bunch of, I believe it's a bunch of explorers go to this uncharted planet and they get chased by a werewolf, basically.
Well, I think he's not a werewolf. He's a member of the team.
Well, of course. He turns into a werewolf. You're right.
Well, do you know that wolf sort of looking guy in the cantina?
Yeah, no, I know it's not a werewolf.
Yeah.
I'm saying he's a werewolf.
He's a werewolf, but there's this sun, and this planet is abandoned because of the sun. There's solar flares, and they're unpredictable.
See, the solar flares make him go crazy. It's the sun that makes him go crazy, not the moon. So it's not a werewolf. I swear it's not a werewolf.
That's why it's a blood moon, I guess. And you have a character who,
by the way, Loophole is the name of the planet. Loophole. And very funny.
That's the gist of that story there.
That one's okay, but
I agree. That one's okay.
The next one is great, I believe. The Dark Mirror.
The Dark Mirror. Yeah, this is a good one. You take the lead on this one. Okay,
so the Dark Mirror is about this Jedi named Sol Mogra who had a master named Nil Edith, and this is sometime in the past. We don't know exactly when. And Nil Edith is like this revered Jedi, never done anything that anybody has ever questioned. Like, he's just an absolute legend. And Sol Mogra gets to become his Padawan, and Neil Edith, shortly after he becomes, after he takes on Mogra as a Padawan, he deals with some sort of like Jack the Ripper-esque serial killer in the depths of Coruscant, and then he goes off on a solo mission and is said to have died on this mission afterwards. And so basically then it picks up 10 years and the only thing that Mogra gets of his master is this this kind of necklace that has like a pendant on it.
I know there's a kyber crystal.
A kyber crystal stored in there. And
apparently it was passed down to him from his master too.
Indeed.
So it's like it's on its third owner here.
At least, yeah. So then this picks up like 10 years later. He's become a Jedi Knight, maybe going to take on a Padawan of his own, and he's returned to Coruscant, and they hear, there's some like crazy serial killer type shit going on in the depths of Coruscant again. Like, well, why don't we send Sol Mogra along? Because, like, you know, his master taught him so well. Maybe like master, like Padawan, he can handle this. Mm-hmm. And so,
because he's always getting compared to his master, you know, he was such a good Jedi,
and he's turned out to be like an incredible Jedi. And then he goes down, he investigates. They can't figure it out, but then he realizes, basically through a twist. Ultimately, the twist on this is that kyber crystal necklace is a thing where a Jedi stores all of his negative emotions and negative feelings in that kyber crystal, and then so by day he can be this perfect Jedi, but then that energy has to get out somehow. So then at night you become this violent killer. So both times, the previous time it was Neil Edith doing the murders, and now it's Sol Mogra. They're not aware of it because they are essentially split in two. This is a method where they split themselves in half, basically. You know, it's a dark half situation, or Heckle and Dr. Heckle.
Dr. Heckle.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. Have you seen the Tom Cruise Mummy?
No, I haven't.
It's terrible, but Crowe as Mr. Hyde, as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, who is supposed to be like the Nick Fury of that universe. Very funny, first of all. But there's a great moment where like there's like a handprint like thing that opens a door, like a high-tech handprint thing that opens the door, and or closes it or something. And it's shown earlier in the scene that Dr. Jekyll can't open it, but then he turns into Mr. Hyde at some point, and like his hand lands on it and it opens the door. It is one of the funniest moments I've ever had in a movie. Okay, but I don't want to sell the Dark Mirror short because I thought this was a fantastic one. This is probably my favorite in the book.
Oh, I was just thinking like Dr. Heckle could be like a birthday boy sketch, you know, or some sort of sketch comedy thing where it's they're at a comedy show and Dr. Heckle shows up and it's just heckling. All right.
But he's like, sometimes the heckles are really nice and sometimes they're really mean.
All right.
That's a terrible, like, that's the start of something anyway.
What's interesting about the end of this story is the Padawan with the necklace, instead of like coming out and like taking the necklace off, when he realizes that his master wasn't this perfect Jedi that he's held to, he ends up embracing the darkness and leaving the Jedi Order and embracing his dark side, which is I thought was an interesting ending to that story too.
Was interesting. It's really good. I was impressed with that one. Okay,
the next one.
Oh yeah,
this is actually my favorite of the story, and this is actually a tie-in to a story from the first book, which I don't know the name of that story, but it involves George Mann's creation, Darth Kaldoth. Kaldoth, there's something is how I think you say it, And in the original story, Darth Kaldoth had an apprentice, and the apprentice wanted to kill him, so he found this spell that would turn his master to stone. However, it backfires, and the apprentice becomes stone. And that's actually, we learn a little bit more about this in this story. So the Gilded Cage is actually about the Night Sisters of Korriban, the Sith witches of Korriban, and
of Dathomir.
Dathomir, sorry. Korriban doesn't exist anymore, does it?
Yeah, no. You're thinking of the last story, which takes place on Exegol, which is the new Korriban.
Yeah, I know. There's so many dark planets now. Sorry, Dathomir, the Sith witches of Dathomir. Anyway, Darth Kaldoth, he wrongs them because when a witch dies, they encase her in this like an egg, and they hang them from the trees. And then when they need an army, they resurrect them and use them as armies. So Darth Kaldoth, he ends up stealing one of these grave pods, and they are very pissed about this. So they have a ritual to determine who is the strongest among them. And the Night Sister, let me see where I can find her name. Zeldin is her name. She is the one selected.
The Legend of Zeldin. The Dark Legend of Zeldin.
And they end up performing a spell where Zeldin, she enters the mind of Darth Kaldoth. And this is like her daily job, to be in his mind.
And fuck with him, basically.
And fuck with him in little ways. And she takes great precaution to know that, he doesn't realize that she's there. And they use spells to see many versions of the future. And in seeing this, they want to just screw up Kaldoth's life as best they can. So one of the things they see is an apprentice. He takes an apprentice, and the apprentice, wants to turn him to stone. But, so they push him in this direction of taking the apprentice, and he takes the apprentice. However, they don't see that the spell backfires and turns the apprentice to stone. And then I'm trying to remember what some of the other things.
There's this big, the only Jedi that's ever beaten him in battle returns, and so they set up a situation where that Jedi would come back, essentially hoping to take out what's his name, Darth
Kaldoth. And then go ahead.
But Kaldoth just dispatches this Jedi, no problem, and. Basically, it's ultimately revealed, I believe, that Kaldoth has been aware of the Night Sisters fucking with him this whole time.
Yeah, because they go to send him to, they send him to this tomb where there's this spirit that kills everybody who enters the tomb. They send him there, and sure enough, he gets there and then recites a Night Sisters, spell and traps the spirit in, a bottle. And they're like, how did he do that? And then so basically, Kaldoth, they decide, since he's gotten past 3 of their traps, they are going to go into his mind and take over his body completely and just basically kill him that way. So when Zeldin tries this, she is separated from her body, her soul is separated from her body, and she becomes trapped inside Kaldoth's mind, where Kaldoth reveals that he has known of her presence the entire time and knew that they were screwing with him, and that he has trapped her in his head, and she has no way out, and that is where she spends the rest of her eternity, as a soul inside the mind of him, completely out of control of him. I thought the ending to this one was very
chilling.
Very chilling. That is the Gilded Cage. The Gilded Cage is Kaldoth's mind, and it ends in this I love the way that it ends too. It said from day 4th, Zeldin was forced to exist in the permanent prison of the Sith Lord's mind, cut off from her sisters and the outside world. Zeldin's sisters did not come to her aid, so terrified were they of Darth Kaldoth's dreadful power. Her body was committed to a pod and hung from the very same structure in which Kaldoth had first stolen the mummified remains of Zeldin's sister. She was never heard from again, except by Darth Kaldoth, who from time to time was given to listen to her screams. and smile.
Oh, hard. Hold off going off. Everything okay there? You're shaking.
Yeah, well, as I was reading that, it was like, the dark side was mustering up the wind there,
Like literally your house is shaking.
It literally is shaking. It is a small structure, and when it is hit by 50-mile-per-hour winds, it physically shakes.
Indeed.
I don't think it'll flip, but you never know.
Oh, good luck. So the last story is called A Life Immortal, which takes place, as we said, on Exegol, the Sith planet from Rise of Skywalker, unfortunately. And it's about this Sith Lord named Darth Noctis, and she is an early-ish Sith Lord who gets interest, who is like ruthless, a legend. In her time, she feels like there's no more worlds to conquer. She must conquer life itself. What's the point of conquering worlds if she can't live forever to rule them, basically? It's the idea. So she goes to Exegol to figure out the secret to, it's eternal life, classic Sith problem, of course.
Funny, another character we know goes to that planet and also seeks eternal life.
It's true.
It goes about it a very different way, though.
Yeah, she should look into dark science and clone it.
Yes, I agree. Cloning is dark science, so let's be honest.
dark science, cloning. Classic. This one, she winds up getting there, and there's not a lot of incident here. It's mostly just her, like, I just being evil, and you find out that her master had kind of gone down this road also.
So Darth Sanguis.
Sanguis, maybe? I don't know.
Sanguis, yeah. And she meets this little a minion sort of character, a very twisted person. She finds him in the depths of Exegol, like in the planet. She finds this guy in the depths, twisted spine, long hair, nails, translucent skin, and she's just like, this is the perfect little minion for me. He'll do everything that I want. And he leads her into like this laboratory underneath where she finds Darth Sanguis research, and he was searching for the same thing she was. So she finds an incantation to say, and she figures, okay, I'm going to take my minion here and I'm going to drain his life force from him. So she does the spell, and as she's draining his life force, she drains his life force, but becomes just like him. Twisted spine, just becomes a creature, a lonely creature.
Twisted and evil.
Yes, and she then realizes that this minion character was actually Darth Sanguis himself. That it was, so it was him essentially,
she's going to be another like person like that, living on Exegol to find the next foolhardy Sith Lord to come along.
She was as close to immortality as she could be, destined to live a life undying, yet unable to truly live.
Oh man, that's a good Rod Serling finale right there. That's final monologue. These. I remember liking Myths and Fables. It's been a couple years, so I don't have it's super fresh in my mind. But this was really good. I'm excited about the Life Day Treasury. This is a cool strain of books they've been putting out. I will say, we didn't talk about this. This is much smaller than the other two for some reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because the Life Day Treasury is the same size as Myths and Fables. This one is the same size as books like last week's book, The Mighty Chewbacca and the Forest of Fear. Guardians of the Will was this size book. So I don't know what the choice there was.
What are you going to do? So,
and also too, the next, not next week's book, but the next book, The Life Day Treasury, is also written by Cavan Scott.
George Mann and Cavan Scott co-wrote. I think George Mann is British, and I I feel like
because in the About the Author, he mentions he worked on Warhammer, and that's something else that I know Kevin Scott and Tom Huddleston also worked on.
And he worked on Doctor Who books. I will say he also wrote audio plays for Blake's Seven. And I just want to say, I've been kind of slowly watching Blake's Seven, which is a 70s British sci-fi show.
Okay.
That is incredibly cheap, but very, very good. I'll say, if you like THX 1138 and Star Trek, two good tastes that go good together, I would recommend that show. Very weird show. The first episode felt so THX to me. But then it becomes like a space opera. Like, it's really interesting. I don't know. Interesting show. I need to get back to it, actually. It reminded me when I read About the Author. I like these books a lot. This one's very strong. It's a hit or miss affair, as all anthologies are, but the hits are very good, and the misses are not real misses. They're just okay, you know. And I'm going to go like a strong 8 out of 10.
That's not... You.
What?
We have more stories.
What are you talking about? No, we don't.
Sleeps of Ages?
What is that?
Oh my god. Hang on. How many pages is your book?
201.
Holy crap. The Target exclusive book has 3 more stories in it.
I'm sorry. That's not the one I got. That's not my fault.
Holy crap! Yeah,
I have The Orphanage, Buyer Beware, the predecessor, Blood Moon, The Dark Mirror, The Gilded Cage, and A Life Immortal.
Wow. Okay, I did not know this. That the Target. Okay, this is the Galaxy's Edge exclusive Target version. Has 3 additional stories in it.
They are named.
I know the book's 280 pages. Like there's 80 pages additional here. The stories are called Sleep of Ages, Baccarat, and A Bitter Harvest.
Are they good?
They're okay. I don't think they're the heights. Sleep of Ages I would compare to a mummy story. Basically, you have an explorer there's a legend of a princess that once ruled in wild space long ago, and she was the greatest princess of all time. She had an empire of planets that she ruled, but she was the kindest, most sweetest princess. She never even had a husband or children because it would take away from her time to rule her empire and treat her people fairly. So this explorer who's obsessed with this story basically is just like, I must find the queen's tomb. She finds the queen's tomb. The queen is encased in carbonite. And then eventually she starts hearing voices that she should let the queen out. She does this. She lets the queen out. The queen turns out to be a Sith Lord who perpetuated this legend. This legend is a lie. She was a ruthless Sith Lord. And basically she encases herself in carbonite until she can find a worthy opponent to take over the galaxy once again.
Oh, man. She must have felt... The lead of this story must have felt like Fox Mulder in season 4 of The X-Files. Shout out. Anyway,
the explorer is not a worthy adversary. So whenever it's not a worthy adversary who lets her out, she drains their life force and then she returns to the carbonite. So that is the Sleep of Ages. The next one I actually kind of like Baccarat, which is about Baccarat apparently is like tarot card reading in Star Wars. I don't know if it's a new thing, but there's a Baccarat card reader in Maz's castle, and she also has a disembodied old antique protocol droid head that she keeps in a box, and when she pulls the cards out and it has the cards read, she pulls the droid head out and like opens it, and the droid is the one that tells the fortune. And they talk about how like his voice hisses and pops as his they don't know where his power source is, but you could tell that like circuits are like malfunctioning in the head. And there's a story of a guy who his tarot card reading is basically you will find a great love, and then the next card is you will lose this love by your own foolish decision making, and then you will die shortly afterwards. So there's a guy, he's on a ship. There's a woman running from the First Order. The crew of the ship take the girl in, and they're going to take her to a home world, but they're also transporting a giant tentacle beast or some sort of beastie with them that they're planning to catch a whole bunch of money for. Well, turns out the girl has a bounty on her head, so the crew, they want to turn the girl over to the First Order, and our main character is in love with her, so he lets the beast out of the cage and kills all of the crew. Well, unintentionally, he kills her as well, and then the First Order shows up, and they kill him. The Baccarat card reader, she was more interesting than the rest of the story. Okay. And then finally, what is this? A bountiful. It's not a bountiful feast. It is
a movable feast. It's about a drunk writer in Paris, in space Paris, hanging out with other drunk writers.
So this is a bitter harvest this time, which is about a man who he goes to Batu to find a simple life among the villagers, and he buys a farm and he meets a woman, and he loves his life so much that he ends up becoming extremely protective of it. And one day he comes home and his wife invited this poor man in, and she's like, "Oh, this man's just trying to sell some seeds that he has," and he sees this man and he's just like, "Oh, this man disgusts me. How dare you let a stranger into my house?" And he takes the man, he throws the man out of the house, and the man, he looks at our main character and he says, "All that follows is because of you." And then the man left his seeds behind, so our main character, he takes the seeds, he throws the seeds outside, and then next day he wakes up and all of his crops are dead. Then a small boy goes missing in the town, and everybody's complaining about this fog and like things tapping on their windows. And turns out the seeds grew into giant tree monsters, and the tree monsters are what's causing all of this stuff. And he can't help but, "Oh, I did this. Everything that follows is because of me." And then the traveler, the poor man, shows up again, and it's just like, "Yep, you caused this." And that's where my version of the book ends.
All right. Well, I apologize for jumping the gun. That's very funny. We hadn't realized that we had. I thought yours had a different cover.
I thought mine had just had a different cover too, as well. But it turns out it's actually an expanded edition of the book.
Well, maybe check out the Target version if you can find it.
I got this on eBay, and I got it for the same price you did, because I asked you what you paid for this, and you said like $15 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I got it new. But
yeah. So that's what I got it for off of eBay.
So. Look for that one, I guess. Because I again, like I said, I gave it an 8 out of 10 just because not all the stories are great, but the great ones are great, and the bad one, quote unquote bad ones, are fine and perfectly fun to read, and have a good vibe to them. It's a solid anthology. 8 out of 10 for me.
I was going to give it that same exact score because we just agree all the time.
Yeah, we always agree.
The show works. But I agree. This book has a fun vibe, and the stories I like, the stories I really like in this. And I don't remember the first book. I remember the first book being fine, but the first book was also just like a tie-in to Galaxy's Edge too. Like it
so many of the stories were about
it felt like way more like forced promotion, whereas this book seems to be able to adventure more than that. Like it's not tied to this Galaxy's Edge.
This reminded me a lot, actually. We talked about it a few weeks ago. This reminded me a lot of like Star Wars Visions.
Yes.
Where it's like, yeah, maybe the weak ones are weak or whatever, but like I appreciate just the ambition of the storytelling. Like there's lots of just different ideas for kinds of stories that we haven't really seen in a Star Wars book or anything before. So like I just appreciate the kind of inventiveness of.
You know what this reminded me of? Tales from a Galaxy Far, Far Away, Volume 1.
Which I only read 2 stories of, I believe.
Yes. Also part of the
my greatest failing my greatest failing in the history of the show, I believe. The only book I didn't finish in the history of the show.
That's okay, because I haven't finished one book. That was Secret Missions #3. I didn't finish.
Which you have finished since then,
I have finished since then. And then there was what was the book the Shadows of the Empire Junior novel. We both
we had to push it. We did finish it by the following week.
Right, but that was the one time
where you did not finish it by the following week, if I recall.
I think you're right about that.
Anyway, whatever, it's fine. So I guess we're both 8 out of 10 on this. Next week, we are going to return and finish up Clone Wars Secret Missions and do Guardians of the Chiss Key. We have not discussed if we're going to watch a film related to this title. I cannot think of a film with key. Key, to me, would be the key word. What's a key film?
Key, yeah. I don't know about... I wouldn't want to do anything Guardians related. So, yeah, key is definitely
there is, of course, perhaps... The Guardian, which I believe is a William Friedkin movie from the mid-'80s that is supposed to be terrible. Let me think. And you saw it. There might be another movie called The Guardian with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher, I believe, that you saw.
Oh, yes, that is. I have seen that. That fine movie.
Directed by Andrew Davis, who did The Fugitive, Ashton Kutcher must be the huge problem there. It's like if you got a actor who can match up to Costner as a movie star.
I don't even remember there being any problems with the movie. It was just kind of generic in my opinion. Let me search. I'm searching key on IMDb.
We could always do we could always do instead of that. We could do I texted you a couple weeks ago. The buddy cop movie starring Pat Morita and Jay Leno, Collision Course. Which a movie starring Jay Leno, starring Jason Leno, as I like to call him, just sounds delightful. I don't think it's streaming anywhere, though.
Yeah, we'd have to figure out where that is. Every time you say Collision Course, I think of I was thinking of wasn't the Crocodile Hunter movie subtitled Collision Course, and but then there's also Ice Age Collision Course as well,
which is the third or fourth one. Yeah. Or maybe who knows what it is. But,
fifth, I don't know.
Yeah, didn't we have a whole episode where I tried to name all of them in order or something?
I think so. Yeah, we definitely. And you were we were both in disbelief by how many of them there were. I think too. We didn't realize
five. It's insane. And Disney owns it now, so expect a sixth at some point, I'm sure.
I agree, or a reboot.
Or something. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure this one out. I'm going away this weekend, so I'm going to have a busy weekend ahead of me. I'm going to be.
You're good. Congratulations to our listener Grant. He's getting married.
He's getting married, and I'm not to brag, but I'm going to the wedding. So
listen, it's not like he's just going to some random listener's wedding. By the way, we've known Grant for a very long time, and you've actually met him several times in real life. So. It's very normal for you to be going.
Not that we wouldn't go to listeners' weddings if you invited us.
If you guys want to invite us, then maybe we can make it work. But he's not. You're not going to the wedding because he listens to the show.
No. We talk occasionally. But we would also go to birthday parties, bar mitzvahs. I've never been to a bar mitzvah. I go to a listener bar mitzvah. Yeah.
We perform.
We will do a live show. I thought we'd just do a live Padawan library, but we can do a bit of both.
A scripted comedy show. We'll just do old Abbott and Costello bit.
Quinceañeras? We'll do a quinceañera.
Quinceañera, yeah. We'll do them all. So bat mitzvahs too. I don't want to be rude to So bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. Anyway.
Confirmations.
They don't believe me. They don't blow that one out in the same way. I don't know anybody that's been confirmed that's we had a huge blowout for that. It's maybe you went out with your grandparents or something.
I don't know. There was a fairly big number of people showed up to Janice's confirmation.
Okay, that's
many
true.
States.
Maybe it was a bigger thing in the mid-century. I also think probably for Catholics it's a bigger thing now that I think about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
anyway, until the books are due back.
The library is closed. Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by The Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Padawan Library is copyright 2021. Tim May and Levi Paratic. All rights reserved.